All right, welcome to the Non-Stuffy Attorneys Podcast. Today I'm with Manisha Patel. Hi, Manisha.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for
Good.
having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So you're a family law attorney, correct?
Yes, in North Carolina.
All right, where about in North Carolina?
Greensboro, North Carolina, so like right in the center of the state.
Okay, cool. Have you lived there your whole life?
No, it's actually been, in August it'll be 18 years. So I'm originally from Virginia, not too far across the Virginia North Carolina border. So Greensboro was our big city growing up. And after I did my undergrad at Virginia Tech, I came to North Carolina for law school, and it kind of just stuck. And then slowly, by surely, my whole family moved down here. So um, we're all kind of settled in North Carolina now.
Very good, very good. So tell me the story on how you got into law. Have
Yeah,
yeah, was it like always kind of your plan growing up? Like,
yeah.
yeah, what's kind of the path there?
Yeah, so it's a really funny story actually. So I went to a very small private school for 13 years, from kindergarten through high school graduation. And in eighth grade, the last grade of middle school, we had kind of like a rite of passage research project, which involved a research paper, a speech, and a Q&A a panel from people in the community. And so through that process, I was assigned the topic about the constitutionality of the death penalty. And so it was my first venture into anything about like the law, the Constitution, because by eighth grade, you're not really learning anything but the basics. So um, through that project, through the debate, through the Q&A, that's what really cemented my desire to be a lawyer. And I've always been service oriented. My parents really instilled the value of giving back to our community at a young age. And so I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to fight for people, and I wanted to help people, not so much just fight, but help people. And so I did everything in my path to be a lawyer, and I didn't know what type of law. I just knew I wanted to help people. So that was kind of the path through high school, undergrad at Virginia Tech, and then ultimately moving to North Carolina for law school at Elon University.
Okay. So then what happened out of law school?
Yeah, so I used to be very nervous, anxious, I think, talking about this part, but I graduated law school, but I had a huge roadblock with the bar exam. I've never been a good exam taker. I tried a variety of different methods, but I had to take the bar multiple times. And it was one of those things that I did part-time work in between, got to pay the bills, but I did finally pass the bar exam. And it was kind of like an uphill battle after that, trying to regain the confidence and finding my spot. I knew at that point, at my first year of law school, I wanted to do family law. So it was one of those things where at that point I just needed to get in, whether I'm doing high level paralegal work. I mean, this was 2011, so we know what happened in 2008 when I was a first year in law school. So it was a very, very difficult time trying to find work as a newly licensed attorney. So I did project work, I did contract work, meaning just as needed. I guess in the medical field, they call it PRN. And so I finally found my place with an attorney I worked with during law school, doing family law. She just had merged her practice with another firm and needed help with the transition. She knew our work ethic together. We worked well. And from there, I ended up staying at that firm. A little over 8.5 years until I opened my own law practice in November 2018.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, the bar exam is, I don't know. It's bullshit. It really is.
Great.
Honestly, it's like it's just cramming, and that's what a lot of school. It's just cramming to memorize, and
Yeah.
that's what a lot of schooling is in general. Is like
Hmm.
just studying to pass the test. And if you're
Yeah.
just studying to pass a test, you don't really retain. And it's just a lot of. I mean, look, I'm not an attorney. My wife is. Um,
Yeah.
but I watched her go through it, and yeah, it's just a lot of inapplicable stuff. It's not stuff that you're going to actually use. It's not real training
No.
for what you're going to, right? So it's like,
Very gatekeeping, if you ask me. But
right, right. It's like the
um,
stupid rite of passage.
exactly, exactly. Because people who pass the bar the first time, I can probably name so many people I went to school with, graduated with, who don't even practice anymore
Yeah,
or aren't even in a law related, field anymore or practice for 5 years and they were like, I'm done. I'm done doing this. So it doesn't have any measure, I think, of what you can do with your practice. The way I often, mentor law students and talk to them about my experiences. Yeah, I took the bar exam 3 times, but here I am 15 years later with a successful business, past president of the Greensboro Bar Association, past president of the North Carolina Association of Women Attorneys, an elected state bar counselor for our licensing regulatory agency. And so, what you do with your license is so much more important than, oh, you took the bar exam how many
right.
times?
Yeah, I can almost guarantee you that if 95%, if not more, of the stuff that you use today was learned after you became licensed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
I learned through the different clients that I work with. I learned that when I first started my practice, I had a very traditional, more old school perspective of the practice of law. Got to be in a suit. You have to be put together. You have to give the appearance of a powerful, commanding attorney. And with my desire to help the people come and meet the people of our community where they are, that's not what they need. They need someone who they can relate to, they can connect with, and someone who listens and can help. And it wasn't a rude awakening. It took some time for me to have that realization, and I still learn day in day out.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're kind of embracing the whole non-stuffy attorney motto, huh?
Exactly. I know. I was talking with my paralegal at the end of 2025 at the beginning of December. I had a big birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I took 2 weeks off when the courts were closed. And she, was like, "Are we going to be open while you're gone? Courts are closed. What we can't really do much when you're not here." And I said, "We're going to have an abbreviated schedule, 9 to 1. You can be casual. You don't have to dress up. We aren't being going to be client facing, and oftentimes clients want to see an office, but they don't really care for what you look like as long as you can help them, right?" And I was just like, you know what? It's the end of the year. We're just going to get the things done, and we'll deal with everything else after the holidays. And it's one of those things that, as the longer I've had my solo practice, my own law firm, even with my law student interns, I think they do find it surprising that I have had these leadership positions in the community, in the legal profession, locally, statewide, and nationally, but I'm really laid back. I'm not, going to be a stickler for, okay, your hours are 9 to 6. You have to be here. You have to clock in at 9 a.m. It's so much more about how does real life affect work, and as long as the work gets done, I mean, I'm happy. I We went to a unlimited PTO process, or I guess, um, rule, if you will, last year, and I think it's just made things so much more livable. I mean, work when
Yeah,
you can, life comes up.
right. We have the unlimited PTO.
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. It's yeah, we don't want to, like, someone needs to go to their kid's baseball game. It's like,
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, yeah. The whole non-stuffy thing really elevated our law firm right
Mhm.
from the beginning. Um, I had, I have I have a marketing background, and
Right.
a lot of what I was trained in was that before you run any marketing campaigns, you need to survey what the general public, what
Mhm.
their viewpoints are of that service, that product,
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're selling. So we had just opened after COVID had hit. So I really, normally best surveys are done in person. So you can kind of get an
Mhm.
emotional
Yeah.
read on the person, but we couldn't do that, obviously. So I read over 1,000 5-star Google reviews, 1,000 1-star Google reviews. And there was three things that kept getting repeated in both of those, right? One, the attorney was either knowledgeable or they were incompetent. Those were the 1 stars, right? It was
Right.
one of the
Yeah.
two. The other was that they communicated or they didn't communicate, right?
Mhm.
I think that's like the biggest that's like the biggest bar complaint.
It is. I sit on our grievance committee for our state bar council, and we actually have our first quarterly meeting next week in Raleigh. But that is without a doubt, hands down. I've served on the council on the grievance committee for this is my 5th year, and communication and lack thereof is the biggest bar complaint that attorneys receive in North Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah. So we made it a policy that all communication needs to be replied to within 24 hours.
Hmm.
It is like the phones when they ring here, never go to voicemail. If it does hit
Right.
voicemail, it's like heads are rolling. It's like a
Yeah.
big problem.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so those are the two things. And the third thing was that the attorney was relatable. They were down to earth. They were just like them. So that's how I came up with non-stuffy attorneys. And yeah,
Yeah.
the general public views attorneys as they have this preconceived notion that they're stuck up, they're conceited, they're stuffy, all of that. Um, but it really couldn't be further from the truth from what I've observed. Right? I'm sitting here talking to you. You're like a totally normal person. You're not some stuck up bitch. It's like
I
you're
try
like,
not to. Well,
uh, yeah,
well,
but
I was going
it's
to say, yeah, it's so important that the people can. I guess it's what you said. They want to be able to relate to you. They want to know that you're a human, and just like you have flaws, you are skilled and experienced and educated to help them. That's what it comes
right.
down to.
Yeah, and it doesn't make, it's like, okay, an attorney is more knowledgeable and competent in law,
Mhm.
right? But then you have
Yeah,
a plumber who's more knowledgeable and competent in plumbing and all of that.
plumbing. Yeah, like
Um,
the pipes.
there,
Yeah,
so it
piping. Yeah,
doesn't make you, yeah, it doesn't make you any better or worse than any other,
right.
trade. Uh, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
so
yeah.
what
Well, and
happened?
I will add on to that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
No, go ahead.
I was gonna add on to that. I this happened I think in November. It was yes, it was before Thanksgiving, and I had a client meeting, and I usually always take my phone in to client meetings. So if I need to, for scheduling something, if I don't have my computer with me, I can access my calendar and whatnot. And I had my phone sitting face up on the desk, and we were using the calculator for something, and I had a notification that popped up that said therapist appointment, and it was like a 15-minute reminder. And it was one of those things where I would have in the past, like quickly move my phone, turned it over, put it like in the chair next to me. But I tell my clients that mental health is so important. Well, they need to know that I take care of my mental health as well. And that's not something to be ashamed of or needing to hide. And I think the more that even clients going through difficult, family situations, very unexpected, difficult family situations, that they can see that their attorney is taking care of their mental health for whatever, if it's just a weekly check-in, whatever it may be. And so that's one of those things that I've also seen where this idea of being the non-stuffy attorney is so important, especially in the family law field.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, when it all comes down to it, you're just a normal person with a particular skill set.
Yeah,
That's it.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those attorneys who act like jackasses stuck up, it's like they would probably be doing that if they were an electrician or they were in some other trade, you know?
Exactly.
But it's a shame. Yeah. It's a shame that the profession has that stigma to it, because it's
Mhm.
just, generally speaking, it's just not true, you know? But
Right. It
part
really
of our,
isn't.
yeah, part of our whole movement here with non-stuffy attorneys is to change the general public's viewpoint on attorneys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of change that landscape. That's a big mission that we have, is to
Yeah.
change that perception. It's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I hope it travels up here to North Carolina from Florida. I find that especially, which is, it's a contradiction to me, but in the family law field where you are dealing with people, highly emotional, stressful situations, and to have that stuffy persona, and I think a lot, again, we know from TV, courtroom dramas, people have that perception of lawyers, but I feel like family law is one of those fields where clients want to know that their attorney is human. Yes, you've gone to them because they have that skill set, but they're a regular person, just like Joe on the street, Susie walking to work.
Right, right. Yeah, I think
Right,
probably
right. Yeah, I think probably.
compared to other practice areas, it's probably super, super important in that to be relatable. And you're almost like a therapist, I'd say, in family law.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, well, and that's one thing I often tell clients, especially in our initial consultation, where my license, it's on the wall of my office, but it says attorney and counselor at law. I mean, granted, the counseling goes to some degree, but it's not just the black and white law words and statutes and case law. There's so much more to it, and I've found that since I've been shifting my practice to alternative dispute resolution and focusing more on being that non-stuffy attorney, one, I am so much happier doing what I do. And that has led to me providing better service to my clients. And so
Tell, tell,
I think that, yeah, go ahead.
tell me what alternative dispute resolution is. I'm not, forgive my ignorance.
Yeah, no, no. So traditional, I guess, traditionally you think of the legal field as very adversarial, going to court, litigating. I do civil work, so a person versus a person, or a business versus a person, anything like that. That's civil work. And most oftentimes people think with family law, separation, divorce, custody, alimony, things like property division, you have to go to court to resolve those. And in North Carolina, everything is decided by a judge. So again, I always say you have a stranger in a black robe telling you what to do with your life. And that's probably one, your least likely outcome of what you want. And number two, you have no say, no control. And so I had a situation with a very high conflict child custody litigation case in the court system, to the point where I was being stalked, for lack of a better word. The other party was unrepresented. They had a history of multiple domestic violence situations with past partners and my client. And it got to the point where they were following me. I had to put a security camera in my office, like the hallway office suite. And it was an eye opener that, one, I can't do this because that's my own like livelihood, my safety. But I had that realization of, how is this really helping this family? How is this helping this child? And alternative dispute resolution is a broad term for really anything that's not in litigation, not going to court. And so with alternative dispute resolution, I focus on collaborative family law. And there are other methods like mediation, a negotiation of various negotiation models you can do this under. I call that more cooperative uh, practice. And then you have arbitration, but arbitration is, I think, like litigation-esque. It's just not a judge. You just have an arbiter. But alternative dispute resolution, and what I focus on, is collaborative family law, where I'm pretty sure over the majority of the United States has adopted the Uniform Civil Collaborative Law Act, which basically allows people to go through this collaborative process where you sign an agreement, you agree not to litigate, your attorneys are collaboratively trained, and everything is full disclosure. And so there's no excess, financial expense of going to court, waiting for the court, things being pushed off, and fighting. That adversarial mindset is just kind of out the door with collaborative, and you're more on an interest-based model of negotiation. We use various tools like nonviolent communication to keep the heavy emotions, heavy feelings out of a scenario. Kind of outside of it, and focus on interests, needs, making requests, observing the emotions, and trying to figure out, based on each person's interests, what requests can they make of the other side, and how can we find those unmet needs met. And so it's a really interesting I guess, mode of communication. It's nonviolent communication. Dr. Marshall Rosenberg is kind of the father of NVC. And I've actually found, as I developed my practice since 2019 forward into alternative dispute resolution, that like nonviolent communication, I use it in even my personal life with partners, with friends, my family. I'm first generation. My parents are originally from India, so that East versus West cultural, mindset, conflict, and it's changed the way I have relationships. And so I see it, and I can tell my clients, look, I do this. I practice this with just my parents, my siblings, my partners. And so it's just, I think that really just helps people see that this can work, and this will cut out that emotional expense, the time expense, financial, like all of that.
Yeah. Does it, so I'm very curious about this because we are, part of our 2026 targets is
Mm-hmm.
to get into family law.
Okay.
Now we don't really know anything about it. I know my wife doesn't want to touch it with the 10-foot pole herself.
Yeah.
So we will need to find an attorney who's knowledgeable in it. But yeah, that's a practice area that we want to get into this year. Do you think is this kind of the way family law has gone for most attorneys, or is this like how most of the cases are basically handled nowadays?
I would say, and I'll say this based on my experience within North Carolina, I think ADR for short, alternative dispute resolution, and especially collaborative family law has not quite caught on in my geographic area of where I live in North Carolina. And with collaborative family law, because you agree not to litigate, you can take cases all over the state. Obviously, with technology now, we can do virtual meetings, we can do in person. Many collaborative attorneys are willing to travel to like neighboring counties. And so I do think there are particular areas in North Carolina where it has caught on much more. What I see, more common right now is people are at the point where they're burnt out with litigating. They're burnt out going to court, sitting in court for 8 hours and having nothing to show for it but billing your client, quite honestly, with court cases being so backed up. I mean, I think in November I had a case that was number 23, a trial, the 23rd trial of the day scheduled. And
Oh my
obviously
God.
that didn't get reached, and it's continued, or excuse me, this was December, continued to April. And so now we're waiting 4 more months to get to that point to see where will we stand for a hearing. And I find that so many of my colleagues are feeling that burnout, that now they're exploring this different process, this different area. And I'm hopeful that more will get into this field, but I think it's a little difficult right now because you have people who are not fully on board with the collaborative process, and I think it's because they just haven't done it enough. But also they might have the litigation mindset, but say, oh, well, I did the 15-hour, 14-hour training, 20 years ago. I'm trained. I can take on a collaborative case. And it's very difficult when someone is more than just like toes in, on the ADR side versus always having that litigation mindset.
Yeah. Do you take litigation cases?
So it's taken me a while to slim down my litigation cases, just because the court systems have been very, very slow, post COVID, still 6 years later. But I usually keep a balance of about 15% of my practice is litigation, and a lot of that 15% is court appointed work. I do feel an obligation to take low bono cases, cases that are far below my hourly rate, and help the community, right? And so I do take on about 10 to 15 court appointed litigation cases. And then if children aren't involved, then I might, if it's like, the financial property division or support type cases, I'll take those. But I try to keep litigation to a minimum of 15% of my practice.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. This is interesting because I hadn't heard of this with family law. It was always kind of like, okay, well, it's going to be a pain in the ass. It's going to be a lot of contested stuff, and yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be. So I'm glad to hear this. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
tell my wife
Well,
about it.
yeah, and I do have my book coming out in the
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
months. It's called Ending Your Marriage Peacefully, and it is a little North Carolina centric. It's your guide to successful collaborative divorce in North Carolina. But I talk a lot about in the book. I want to share about my favorite chapter because it's called Choose Your Own Adventure. And in North Carolina, we're obligated to talk about people or counsel people of all their options: litigation, non-litigation, ADR. What are these different options, and what do we think is best for you? And I love that chapter so much because it really, I think, is eye-opening for clients, potential clients, consumers, if you will, about what those options are and kind of how does that play out. How does the litigation route play out right now? 9 to 12 months from filing a lawsuit for custody to getting a permanent trial scheduled and heard. 9 to 12 months is wild, and we could
Wild.
have maybe 3 to 4 collaborative sessions, get a child welfare specialist talking to the children, and have something resolved within maybe 2 to 3 months through the collaborative process. And I give that example because that's actually happened. I've had that with past clients. So I think I love that chapter because it kind of gives people an example of each option, how it can play out based on real life examples.
So when you meet with the wife, for example, right? And she's like, okay, I want to do the collaborative, the alternate dispute, right?
Right.
But then the husband has his own attorney, and they're like,
Mhm.
no, I want want to litigate, right? Does that happen a lot?
That's really interesting that you asked that, because around this time last year, I had two cases almost on the exact same timeline that that's exactly what happened. I had a client who came and wanted to do collaborative. Their separated spouse chose a non-collaborative attorney. In both instances, a very aggressive litigation, like more traditional mindset attorney, without responding to my initial letter about, hi, we want to do a global negotiation. We want to do the collaborative process. Is this something you and or your client are interested in? And what I get in response was a lawsuit. Please have your client accept service of this lawsuit. And so with that, I shift that conversation to more cooperative. We more negotiations with the other attorney, agreeing to voluntarily exchange our financials, for example, if this was a financial case, property division. And then I ask, can we set up an early mediation? We know it's going to be court ordered. In North Carolina, it's required for financial cases and custody cases. And so I often suggest, before the court can even order us to do this, why don't we go ahead and do this and get this resolved instead of waiting on the court's timeline? And in both of those situations, that worked out very well. We were able to resolve things probably within the first 6 months of communication. And then in North Carolina, we have a year waiting period for legal separation and then a divorce for a no-fault divorce. And we just finished getting those divorces entered. We had agreements done, early last year, probably by June 14th, I think. Both those cases were resolved, other than getting the divorce.
Huh. So they have to file a formal separation and then has to wait a year?
So you don't have to file anything for legal separation. It's just when the spouses are living separate and apart, so two separate addresses, and at least one is what our statutes say. So I always make that clear, is one person has to have the intent to no longer live as a married couple. I had a situation a couple of years ago where one spouse had that intent, but didn't share that intent, and was traveling for work. And so they weren't living at the family home, and the court took that as the legal separation date. And so we tried to fight it based on, the client situation, but the court held that up as that one spouse had the intent, so that's your date of separation. And sometimes we do have to go to court to have a judge hear both sides to tell a person, I agree with them, that's your date of separation, because that's like our date of valuation for property, for spousal, for alimony, things like that. And so it was a very interesting thing that we had to fight to figure out that date of separation, but it's not required to file anything, which is often a common misconception.
Yeah. What do you do when you have a client who wants a divorce and the spouse is like, I don't want a divorce?
At that point, I tell the person, if you leave this household because you want to legally separate, take anything and everything you want as if you can never go back to that house, and then leave. You have the intent. You have to live separate and apart. So if that's exactly what you want to do, the other person does not agree, well, they don't have to. You can move out. But oftentimes the barrier is the whole moving out process, not being financially able to have the two separate households. And that's the most common thing I hear from people in North Carolina as a barrier to legally separating, that they want to, they have the intent, but they financially can't do that. And it makes sense, going from one level of income, whether it's two income or one income household, with that same amount of funds for two separate households. And then if there are kids involved, that increases the, the overall expense for two separate households. So there are a lot of strong feelings about this 1 year separation period for North Carolina.
I'd imagine so. Um, so can someone still get a divorce? Okay, they separate for a year, right?
Yeah.
And one spouse is saying, I still don't want the divorce. And the other one saying, I want a
Mm-hmm.
divorce. Can they still get legally divorced?
Mm-hmm. The biggest
Yeah.
barrier at that point is serving them. And that's probably what I'll say is very common to what you see on like media on TV and movies about, someone like a process server bringing you this paper being you're served. And that's the biggest common thing that bars people from, getting that divorce from when you're at that year and a day mark and you file, you have to serve that person with the lawsuit and they have 30 days. So once we get service, I say 45 days max, we can get you divorced. But oftentimes I've had to serve people. Most recently, I had to serve someone in the Philippines. We sent the papers via DHL. We sent it to their work address, and then like the front desk receptionist apparently signed for it, and that wasn't acceptable for our court. So we had to send it again on DHL to make sure it was like direct signature. And we got it. They observed, they accepted it, but there are things like that where even internationally, there are ways. One of my favorite ways to serve people without having the private investigator, because again, things cost money and a PI is expensive, a process server is expensive. I've wrapped up the lawsuit in bubble wrap and put them in a FedEx box. And typically I have the most success around October, November, December, because people will honestly blindly sign anything because they think they're getting a present or been ordering packages for the holidays, and get service. Someone signs for it, and then I submit the the delivery signature image to the court, and we're good 30
Oh,
days.
that is clever. I love that.
I know when my
Oh,
paralegal first started with me in 2023, I think it was, she was like, "Why do we have so much bubble wrap?" And I'm like, You'll see. There's a method. There's a reason I have a plastic bin of bubble wrap in our file room."
just wait until Thanksgiving time. You'll start seeing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. That story you were saying earlier, you just touched on it. That stalker, God, that's kind of crazy, huh? How long did that
Yeah.
go on for?
So that case actually started in, let's see, 2021. And at the time, it was an emergency custody situation, where I stepped in. I was able to get an emergency custody order where we could get law enforcement to go retrieve the child, because the other party had violated a custody order. There was no contact, and so we had that. And then after I got that emergency order for my client, the other side got a lawyer. And I will say I would like to say I'm young, but a woman of color, not what you commonly see in, small, mid-sized town in middle of North Carolina. I had the opposing counsel corner me in the like the back attorney lounge of the courthouse, telling me that he's going to report me to the bar for ethics violations for not giving notice unless I withdrew it. And there's some professional courtesy that's like an unspoken rule. You talk to someone about this before you actually file it. Well, after we had that conversation, he handed me the motion for sanctions he filed against me. And in that situation, it was very volatile, even with the other, when an attorney was on the other side. And eventually I won that motion for sanctions. I was not hit with sanctions. On top of that, my client was awarded attorney's fees for everything I had to expend to fight that, the emergency custody, all of that. I think she was awarded over $10,000 in attorney's fees, which I am still collecting. But it got to the point where that opposing party, when they were not represented, we have what in North Carolina we call pretrial conferences, which are with the parties or their attorneys and the judge to give an update. Are we ready for trial? What is still needed? I'd issued discovery before the other side, I guess, was unrepresented. I had served it to their prior attorney. And we had a conference about that outstanding discovery. I did not get any responses. And the judge, basically set up that conference specifically. Well, if you're not represented by attorney, you are still held to the same standard because you're representing yourself. He did not like that. And then the judge asked us to go into the hallway and try to resolve this. Let's come to an agreement of when you're going to get me your documents, your responses, your pay stubs, because it was custody and child support. And we were in the hallway. This was still like the masking era where we had barriers in the courtroom. And I was trying to keep like social distance. I'm immunocompromised. And, the other side started getting really aggressive, yelling at me, taking their mask off and blowing their breath in my face. I kept stepping back and he just kept getting louder, to the point where the judge back in the courtroom stopped the trial that was happening, had the sheriff's deputy, the bailiff, come out, tell him to leave, and have me come back into the courtroom to wait. They made me wait for 15 minutes before I left. And they asked me to go down, through like the parking deck, like the attorney and enter exit, not like the main public enter exit. And so that was like my first red flag that this is probably not going to be a safe situation. And there was domestic violence with my client. Two other prior situations he had. So I knew that there were safety issues. So I always had my client have a sheriff's escort after court. We'd always wait about 20 to 30 minutes after court was done to leave, because we've had multiple experiences of just, the weighing in late, waiting. And it was after the custody trial. My associate at the time, she and I had our bins, our boxes from the custody trial, wheeling everything back to my car to take back to the office. And we had waited 30 minutes. My client had a friend to come meet her to go to her car in the parking deck. And as we were walking to my car to load everything up, I could see the opposing party, the unrepresented opposing party, pull their car in front of mine and then just stare at me. I could see the whites of their eyes from their rear view mirror. And that was, obviously my office address is public. It's been on court documents, but we drove around downtown Greensboro, all the different one-way streets, road closures, all of that for probably a good 20 minutes. Before we went back to the office. And around that same time, I had a cancer diagnosis. So here I am dealing with a health crisis, these safety concerns about, volatile parties. And at that point, I just realized that I can't slowly make this transition anymore. I have to make this transition out of high conflict custody litigation. It's just, at that point, I told my associate, money's not green enough for me to keep doing this.
Yeah.
This is my life. And I'm going to have this major shift I'm going to have to focus on for at least 5 years. Who knows what will happen, with, I called the cancer. But, it was just one of those things. That was the time where it was like the biggest thing that I can't slowly do this transition. I have to do this transition now.
It's smart. It's
Smart. So,
it's easy to get caught up in the money and all of
Mm-hmm.
that, and just kind of push it, like make that the most important thing when it definitely is not.
Yeah. And oftentimes I see with litigation, not only it's harmful for families, I think, because one, your business is public record. We're, I think, the only state in the whole country that is 100% virtual. Like, we have e-courts where all of our court records, you just need an internet connection and you can see all court filings. You just have to search a person's name. And it's just, things become public. Uh, it's just, it's so much easier to find people, and the time, the money, all of that, it's just, it's not worth it, honestly. And I think with that shift, it really, I think when I share this with other attorneys, they're like, oh, that really does make sense. And I'm like, yeah, we should try this. We should try this a lot more.
Good for you. Good for you. Um, what happened with the cancer?
So I had surgery and one round of radiation, and then it was probably about almost 2 years of trying to figure out like the right dosage of hormone replacement and things like that. And so it was around 2023 when I had radiation, and it was just a long period of time trying to figure out, trying to get things stable. I was still, I had treatment. I have treatment at Duke University. They have an amazing cancer hospital, and I'm lucky I live 45 minutes from there. And I got great news in December, or excuse me, October, that
Manisha,
they have.
your camera kept going in and out, and the audio wasn't there again. Oh
Oh
my
no, I'm
god.
so sorry.
Yeah, you're
We've been having issues. I
chopped
don't
up
know if
now
y'all have
too.
had the. Oh no. Can you hear me, see me now?
It's very, very choppy.
Okay. I'm seeing everything clear now. Can you see me?
Yes, now I can see you. Yeah, it's still your videos very much delayed, but talk a little bit.
Oh, I'm so. We've been having issues with the
Yeah,
Verizon outage yesterday.
same. We had a huge outage too.
Is Yeah, and so I'm so sorry. I didn't. It hasn't been an issue so far this morning. Is it still choppy?
That's getting better. Yeah. No, no, that's your video is a little choppy, but your voice is
Okay.
I think it's fine. No.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I don't. We were
No,
kind of, scrambling with the Verizon outage, and I think that affected a lot of us.
yeah, for sure.
um.
For sure. Well, it seems to be a little bit better right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. We can chop out a lot of this
Okay.
anyway. Yeah, no problem. Well, I'm really interested to hear about what happened with the cancer. I have history with family and stuff like that. So yeah, so
Yeah.
tell me what happened.
Yeah, so I had that diagnosis in third quarter of 2022. I had surgery actually December 1st, 2022, and that was the first time I took more than, 2 days off from the office. And so it was very scary on top of, major surgery, having to stay in a hospital, but leaving my business for a month. And so, I had to have some talks with mentors, being like, this is cancer. the business will survive. And if you need anything while you're gone, we have people that can cover you. And so I had a really great, I have what I call a brain trust, my family law brain trust of colleagues down here. And there are four of us, and they were very, kind and said, anything that comes up, let us know. I had a judge tell me that I needed to show up to court on December 1st. And I was like, Your Honor, here's the note from my oncologist at Duke Cancer Center that I'm going to be in surgery at that time. So no, I will not be in court. Which was frustrating having to give that disclosure in open court, but I did. And when I was out for radiation in 2023, I had an opposing counsel tell me to have fun on my vacation, which I thought, I wish I was going on vacation. So
Some
I
people are
had a
such
very
jackasses.
mixed, yeah, I was just thinking, I already sent out my notice of medical leave as soon as I had like my radiation dates, as soon as I had my surgery dates. We don't have a mechanism in North Carolina with our rules of professional conduct for medical leave. We just have 3 weeks of secured leave, which are, are supposed to be calendar weeks. So are they 7 days? Are they 5 days? What is that? Is it 15 days? Can you break it up? It's very vague. And so I hadn't taken any secured leave. So I said, all right, I'm going to take my secured leave for this. This is what I have to do. And I just dealt with, the disrespect from colleagues. And then, I had the radiation. 2023 was a very difficult year for me,
Did you
physically,
have
emotionally.
did you have just one round of radiation or was it continuous?
It was one round, but it was like 2 weeks straight.
Okay. How was that? Was
Well,
that
when
like,
I say one round, I just mean like one grouping
yeah,
of
yeah.
days.
Yep, I know what you mean. Yeah. How was
Yeah.
that for you?
It was really, really hard. I had to be in isolation. I pride myself on being an independent woman, and having to rely on others was very, very difficult. Not having my dog with me was hard. But I had 2 weeks of isolation, and then the recovery after that was, I mean, I I was not myself. I had to take things so much slower, and I'm a person who used to run half marathons, four half marathons a year. I used to do burn boot camp 6 times a week, so very high, and I'm very active, and so going from being able to do all those things to not really like getting out of bed was um, a really hard thing most days, and so looking back on it, I don't know how I pushed through it all, but I did. And then every 6 months, I had scans and check-ins with my doctors at Duke. And this past October, I got great news that they haven't seen growth. So instead of coming back 6 months, I'm doing 12 months. And then my my doctor at Duke said, we're going to get you to October 2028 and we're going to pop bottles. So that's my goal. That's where I'm going. I feel pretty good for still having an active cancer diagnosis. So I'm trying to just be in the moment and just run with it while I feel good like this. We're gonna do all the things. I just went to French Polynesia for 2 weeks for my 40th birthday, so I'm doing it. There's no planning it for later.
That's awesome.
That's all.
Have you ever looked
Have you ever
into
looked
the
into
the keto diet for cancer treatment?
I have. I'm vegetarian, so certain types of things make it difficult. But I've tried that. I just didn't like it. I do more of like the Mediterranean
Yeah.
diet slash lifestyle, if you will. And then with I've been working with like a dietitian who kind of helps cancer patients and, finding things that work for their lifestyle. And so, I have some great, vegan protein shakes that are my new favorite thing. And I lift a lot at the gym, so the
That's
protein really
good.
helps.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, my mother had gastric cancer back in 2012, and we did the Gerson therapy for a little bit. Have you heard of that?
Okay. I have
Have you ever
not.
heard of the Gerson? No. Yeah, it's essentially lots of juices, like fresh juices, lots of carrot and apple and coffee
Oh,
enemas. Yeah, yeah, coffee enemas
oh,
and um, yeah, I had watched this documentary probably like a year before she was diagnosed. So she had gastric cancer is usually not identified until you're like stage 4, right? Because it just doesn't show any symptoms.
yes,
So
yeah,
she had like heartburn.
right.
She had heartburn in like February, and then at the beginning of April, she was
Mhm.
bedridden. Like and she saw the doctor. They did an
Oh
endoscopy. They
wow.
said she had an ulcer. They were like, "Oh, it's just an ulcer. It'll go away." Well, my mother's
Will
super
go away.
active, and
Well, my mother's super active,
she was in
and
bed for a month. And
she was in
finally, I said,
bed for a month.
this isn't right." So I flew back. I was living in California. I flew back to New
Right.
Jersey, took her. We found out it was cancer. So we started the Gerson therapy. Now she was in bed, right? Like the whole month. She couldn't even get out.
Hmm.
We started the juicing and the
Oh
coffee
wow.
enemas immediately. And within 2 days, she was up and about. It was the wildest thing in the world.
Wow.
It was so wild. Yeah.
Wow.
We were actually, yeah, they have a clinic down in Tijuana. So we were going to take her there. We sent
Mhm.
all of the scans and stuff to them, and they actually said, "Hey, the the tumor's actually bleeding, so you need to stop this treatment right away." The the the
Yeah.
coffee enemas and the juicing. We stopped it right away.
Yeah.
She ended up doing immunotherapy. Have you heard of that for cancer?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so they ended up doing that for down in Mexico. We went to Mexico. Basically, the doctors here in the
Hmm.
US were like, basically, get your affairs in order. Um, you know, the cancer had
Yeah.
spread already, so surgery wasn't an option. And they say chemo and radiation is only gonna make you worse. So basically, get your affairs in order.
Yeah.
She wasn't really ready to hear that, so we took her down to this other
No.
clinic in Mexico, and yeah, they did immunotherapy. Unfortunately, it didn't work. She passed, a couple months later. But yeah, it was a
So
wild.
sorry.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, great woman. Absolutely miss her. It's
Yeah.
been what 13 years now. But
Oh,
yeah, yeah, it was tough.
yeah.
It was tough. It's a scary thing,
Uh,
right? I mean, I'm sure you probably
absolutely. Yeah.
well,
I mean, every time those Duke appointments come up, it's a difficult couple of weeks because you're always thinking of the worst that could happen. And so I don't think I'll kind of stop holding my breath, figuratively until I get the no evidence of active disease diagnosis.
yeah. Well, good luck to you on that. I'm sure it'll come back
Thank you.
clean one of these
Thank
times.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
hopefully.
Yeah. How about your family? It
Yeah.
scare the shit out of them?
Well, I'm pretty private. I often call myself the black sheep of my family. Everyone's in the medical field. I did the one thing that I would say my very traditional Indian parents did not expect was go to law school, like run a business, don't get married, don't have kids. So I called myself the black sheep of the family. And so I was very private about this whole process until I got the official diagnosis. I saw, the first oncologist locally before I went to Duke Cancer Hospital for a second opinion. And so once I got that second opinion, I was like, okay, it's time to tell them. And they, it was the kind of support I would only hope everyone can have from their family. And so, my brother's a surgeon up in Michigan. He asked for like my biopsy results so he can, scan them, take pictures to send a colleague to say, what does she need to look at for this type of cancer? Look through your colleague, tell me, what's a good option. And he gave me really great advice of how to essentially like interview surgeons, try to find the best surgeon, best skilled surgeon. And he even offered for me to come up to his home and get my treatment at his hospital. But I will say going from North Carolina weather to Michigan weather was not ideal. So I opted to stay here in North Carolina. But my family was very supportive, and my mom took care of my dog when I couldn't, because I couldn't turn my head for probably a good month. And so it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. So
I
family
imagine
was
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can take the positive out of it, right? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you get through this, you deal with this shit. It's like, okay, running a
Yeah.
business, dealing with unruly clients, whatever. It's like, okay,
Hmm.
whatever, it's no big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I had an autoimmune disease diagnosis in 2016 for rheumatoid arthritis. Luckily, I've been stable with that, with just ongoing, treatments, and I have a great care team here in Greensboro. But it was one of those things where I thought that was difficult. Oh no, now that's just, business as usual. I can handle that. I can handle, those appointments, the infusions, not an issue. I usually do my work while I'm at the infusion room, getting that done every month. I've even done court from there. They know when I need to be in the corner suite or corner chair where, I can put the barrier and no one can hear me. And I think it's funny that I even did virtual court while getting an infusion.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. What kind of dog do you have?
He is a pug chihuahua mix. He's a rescue. I got him from a rescue in a neighboring city, Winston-Salem, where Wake Forest University is located. And I adopted him in 2012. It was that weird time between bar exam number 2 and bar exam number 3, and he was just what I needed to push me over the edge. And it was to the point where with that bar exam, it wasn't that I didn't know the things, right? Like you said, once you memorize the things, it's doing the test. And so he helped my mental health and made me realize this is not the end of the world. I'll have options if I don't pass, but it would be great if I did. And
Yeah.
so he's been my little companion ever since.
So you had him in 2012, you got him?
Yeah, he
So
is
he's
16.
13,
Yeah.
16.
Yeah,
Oh
he was
my,
2 when I adopted him.
oh my God. Look at him going along.
Oh yeah, it's those little
Yes,
dogs.
the
Maybe
little
it's the
one.
Chihuahua in him, but
Got a lot of fight. They got a lot of fight in them.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
bring him to work with you?
So he does come to the office, but the Chihuahua part of him, he's still a barker. So when I don't have, like, if I am working on the weekends or on a Friday afternoon when I don't have appointments, he'll definitely come in. He has his own little bed. I have a little doggy gate in the office. So if my paralegal brings her dog, we're pet friendly. He's our family, our office mascot. I know y'all have two
Yeah. So I got
collar
this
beagles, and Yeah.
Yeah, we got Paul Leo. Yeah, we got two of them. The one guy's back there biting on his leg. Yeah, the one of them.
Yeah.
So him back there. That's Nouse. He is. We got him when we were out in
Okay.
California. Super. I trained the
Uh-huh.
heck out of him. Okay, so we had decided
Okay.
that we were moving to California right when I got him. So I kind of stopped working. I was doing real estate out there,
Hmm.
and so I spent the next like 6 months. He was attached to me, just training the heck out of him. He's so well
Yeah.
trained. I could take him into New York City without a leash and walk around the streets, and he's
Oh, wow.
perfect. He's
That's
absolutely perfect.
amazing.
Well, in right after the pandemic hit, I was working a sales job. I started
Hmm.
working a sales job, so I started leaving the house a lot, and I felt bad for him. And my
Yeah.
daughter was like, "We should get another dog," so I started feeling bad because I wasn't paying enough attention to this guy. So
Yeah.
I went up to Georgia, got another golden retriever, and when I talked to this woman, this breeder, I said, "Look, we have a law firm. I need to bring the dogs to the office, so I need one that doesn't bark." And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, I'm glad you told me that." She said, "I got two dogs left. One of them is quiet as a church mouse, and the other just started barking like crazy out of the blue." I said, "Perfect. Give me the quiet one." So I fly up there, rent a car, get to the place. Now it's a big farm, and this is in the height of COVID. So they brought
Oh,
they had a big gate at the road. So they brought this long dirt road, brought the
yeah.
dog down to me, get him in the car, the dog's sleeping. I drive about an hour and a half, 2 hours. He wakes up, and this damn thing won't shut up, just barking like crazy. I said, "God damn it, she gave me the wrong dog." And now I'm 2 hours away. And, there was another family there picking up dogs. I'm like, she probably already gave the other dog to someone else already. I'm like, oh. So now, yeah, he'll be 6 in October, and he barks at his own shadow. And it's such a pain in the ass because the other one doesn't make a peep.
Yeah.
And this guy, yeah, he sees anyone new. We have our office is shaped like a horseshoe. And
Okay.
so we have a baby gate kind of in the middle of that
Hmm.
horseshoe. So he
Oh,
can't, we used our previous office was just like this big wide open space. So every time clients came in, he'd see
yeah.
them and he'd start barking like, "You asshole, like shut up." But now he's separated. So, you know,
Yeah.
but he's a lover. He's a golden retriever. He's
Yeah.
just a little bit,
Yeah.
he's a little bit, yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
He's such a pain in
Yeah.
my ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I did. I think it was 2021. It was just right after everyone was like all the vaccines came out, so people were like loosening their COVID restrictions and whatnot. And so I think it was the end of 2021. I went and got pet portraits with my dog,
what is it?
because I felt pet portraits,
Oh,
like pet portraits, and
yeah.
because I was like, he's been with me through all these big things like the bar exam, my RA diagnosis, opening my law firm, all the things, the COVID challenges with the business. And so now I have a big portrait of him and I in the office. And I often say he's our paralegal. He's our office mascot, but unless you want some barking, you probably won't see him beyond this portrait.
And did you have any dogs before him?
No, so we didn't really have pets growing up, and so when I'm the youngest of three, and so my older brother, he moved to Michigan for his residency after med school, and he adopted a rescue dog. Um, right, it was Detroit. His residency was in Detroit. He lived in a suburb at that time, and he brought his dog home for Christmas one year, and our whole family fell in love with him. And
Oh,
I think it was 2011, because I was just thinking, I need this. I need a companion. I was in the throes of the bar exam, bullshit. And so I was just like, it's time. And so, um, that's how he came to be. But he's my first pet.
they're the best. They're the best. They're
They
like
are.
they're family members. And I'll tell you what, when Ashley and I first got together in 2004, we started dating.
Hmm.
I don't know what we were thinking, but we dated for like 3 months and we got a dog together. We got a Siberian Husky. Like, what the hell were we thinking? 3 months together? We didn't even know each other really. At 3 months is like, I don't,
Yeah,
but we were like, we were
you're
in,
still getting to know each other. You're
yeah, but we were like,
chatting.
oh,
Yeah.
we're in love. Let's get a dog together. Thank God we stayed together. But anyway, yeah, we got this dog, and we were able to bring him up. We worked at a drug and alcohol treatment center for many years,
Hmm.
and she was in-house counsel there. And it was on 35 acres up in the Santa Cruz Mountains in California, and we were able to bring him there. And we, he only wanted to be outside, so we tie him up outside,
Yeah.
and the clients would come and grab him throughout the day and take him on walks. And it was so
Yeah.
therapeutic. Oh, it was so therapeutic for them. Everyone loved this dog, and it was great for him. I don't know what we were thinking, because a Siberian Husky needs a lot of exercise. Okay,
Yeah.
a lot of exercise. And we didn't do any research into the dog. We're like, oh, this looks like a pretty dog. Let's get it.
Yeah.
We just got lucky that for that situation. But he ended up passing in 2018. In
Hmm.
October of 2018, we decided to put him down, and our daughter had gone on a camping trip with school that morning, so she was gone for 3 nights.
Oh.
Thank God she was. Well, we had kind of prepped her. I think she was
Hmm.
probably 7 years old at the time. We kind of prepped her that was probably going to happen. But we
Yeah.
put him down, and I'll tell you what. Now, I dealt with the death of my mother, and I
Yeah.
adore my mother. I
Yeah.
love my mother more than anything in the world. And when we put this dog down, I cried for 3 days straight. I couldn't do anything. I didn't. It was unbelievable. Uh,
Yeah.
the emotional aspect of his passing. It was like, and I talked to some people about it, and they talk about, well, the dog never does you wrong, right? It never talks back to you, never degrades you, never it's right. And
Yeah.
you're the center of its universe. You care for
Yeah.
it, right? You're everything to it. So the bond with a dog is something really special. I never felt anything like that. I mean, look, losing my mother was
Yeah.
awful, absolutely awful. But
Yeah.
I love my mother more than I love the dog,
Yeah. Oh, of course. Absolutely.
right? But it was that emotional aspect, the grief I felt, and Ashley too. The both of us, we were at home
Yeah.
for 3 days crying, really, really wild. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, after when was it? In 2015, I bought my house here in Greensboro, and my mom decided to start that transition from Virginia to North Carolina. And she started staying here in Greensboro. My parents had a rental property. And I didn't want her to be by herself. Her whole life has always been taking care of her family, taking care of her kids, taking care of my dad, the household. And this is kind of like the first time she's, spending time on her own. I'm working, my sister's working. I think at that time, my two older siblings weren't married at the time. And, um, I thought, let's get her a dog. And so it was so funny because she said no unless I co-adopt the rescue puppy with her. And so when we adopted this little Chiweenie, a Dachshund Chihuahua mix, it was a mom who had from a puppy mill rescue, had multiple litters like rescued with her, and she was the only one left, and all of her little babies were adopted. And so my mom was like, oh, I love her. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but only if you co-adopt with me. And now here we are 10 and a half years later, and that little dog is her shadow. She goes
Yeah.
everywhere with her. And so she not so much like, carries her in her purse, but trips to Lowe's, she's there. Anywhere my mom goes, she's there. And so it's amazing. And especially with my mother being just older, they're slowing down, and now she has an elderly dog that is at her same speed, and they're just living their best life. And so she's 17, so now, we have to have the conversations with my mom to prepare her. you know it's gonna happen, but we're all here. So it's amazing how an animal can just completely change your day to day and life.
It's really wild, isn't it? It's really wild.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's well worth it. I look at this guy, the one that's really attached to me.
Yeah.
He turned 7 in January,
Hmm.
and golden retrievers, they live 10 to 13
Yeah.
years, right? It's
Yeah.
like, God, he doesn't have that much left. It's like it's
Yeah.
anxious. When I think about it, it gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, because I'm, this guy compared to the Siberian Husky, this guy's like way above that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, I don't, I love my children all the same, but they're not all the same.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's how I feel about my little guy. I mean, he used to go to doggy daycare. It's about a mile, less than a mile. I could walk there from my office. And at the beginning of when he used to go there, I always say I have to drop him off at school. But they have like webcams. So if I had like a break or I was eating lunch at my desk, I'd pull the webcam up to see what he was doing. But now it's just that's a little high active for him now. He's just 16. He likes to sit on the sofa and watch his stories.
Yeah. Yeah. You ever see those Instagram videos of like the school bus picking up the dogs? Oh
Yeah,
my God. How hilarious is that?
they're the
Is that a
best.
real thing? Is that a real thing?
I don't know. I have always wondered. I don't think it's AI, but I feel like it's definitely like staged. It has
Yeah.
to be.
It's right.
Right?
Like you have a bus driver driving around picking up dogs.
I've never heard of that. And I've
No.
also in the family law field, I've heard and seen a lot of wild things. So yeah. Oh yeah,
Well,
and there's another section in the whole book about pets
that's
because
what I was just
pets
going
are
to ask you. Yeah.
yeah.
So tell me,
Yeah.
when does the book come out?
So the book is in its final stages. It should be out by March is our projected publish date. And so I'm just really excited because since I made that shift from, the adversarial litigation, that litigious like bulldog attorney mindset or perception rather, I keep wanting to find ways that I can share this, right? Get more people on board and how to do that, educate them, right? Let them know what this is, how it works, how it can work in situations where I would not recommend it, like domestic violence. But it will be out in March, and I'm really excited because another misconception in North Carolina is pets are seen as just personal property is the legal word we call chattel. So the way a court would distribute, let's say, a furniture bedroom suite is the same way they would consider a pet. When we have to value these items, they put a zero. on a dog. And I have some clients who said, well, we paid thousands of dollars to this breeder for, I don't know, what are the popular bred, like doodles or
Yeah.
an Aussie poo or, whatever those designer dogs are. And they're going to put a 0 on there. And I said, yeah, so this is your motivation to figure out a way. How can we do this on our own outside of a judge telling us when and how you can see your dog? And so I've done, informal custody agreements. Well, I say informal in contracts of pet custody or, shared custody where then provisions if someone moves away or if it's end of life decision making time, the other person has the opportunity to, have time with the dog or the pet, the cat, to, say their final goodbyes or, be there at the whatever end of life situation if that occurs. And so I think that's one of those things that a lot of people don't realize about how the law treats animals and pets and that there are options. There are different options people have to deal with it other than what the law says. And so that's another place because I feel so passionate about my dog. He is not the equivalent of a sofa by any
Right.
means, but that's what the law says. And so I think that the whole idea of the ADR is the control, the decision making ability is back in your own hands. And with pets, I think, again, we've talked about children, but with pets, that has become such a big issue with how to figure that out when the law has no guidance.
Yeah. I love that you wrote this book and that you outline it all. It's going to be super helpful for a lot of people. I will certainly be buying. Where can we buy it?
It'll be on Amazon. We'll have ebook options, like Kindle or other e-reader options, as well as hard copy. It'll be on Amazon, and I believe we'll have a direct purchase option. It's called "Ending Your Marriage Peacefully: Your Guide to Successful Collaborative Divorce in North Carolina." So, a lot of it's North Carolina based, but a lot of our collaborative laws, ADR laws, are through uniform acts, which are common throughout the United States with certain minor nuances different states do make. But I think it's really transferable to any jurisdiction. And I feel like there hasn't been something out there that really emphasizes options other than, okay, this is what the law says and this is what you have to do. Here are the options where you can take back control of your life and your legal rights and entitlements.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, very well done. Very well done.
Thank you.
Well, Manisha, it was great meeting you.
Yeah.
Great talking to you. Yeah, very, very helpful information. And yeah, good luck with the rest of your year. I'm sure you're going to kill it and have lots of book sales. And yeah. Perfect.
Well, thank you. This has been wonderful, and it was wonderful speaking with you. And I definitely support this whole non-stuffy lawyer, non-stuffy attorney mindset. It's important.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.